What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with some Destiny 2, and we're actually going to be talking about the brand new expansion that just came out, the Final Shape. Now, Destiny is a game that for many of us has probably held a special place in our heart at some point in the last 10 years. For me, I actually started this YouTube channel when the original Destiny did come out. I played the beta. It was one of the most highly anticipated games for me when it was first announced because I'm such a huge fan of old school Bungie and the Halo games. The Halo games were some of my favorite back in the past, and when they came out saying they were going to be making this new sci-fi series, which from what they showed off looked kind of like an MMO first-person shooter at first, I was really hyped for it way back when. Now, of course, Destiny's original launch and initial years were kind of had a mixed reception. The game never really fully lived up to its hype. It kind of struggled a little bit until they did launch the Taken King expansion with the original Destiny, and then the rest of the game was halfway decent through that, culminating with Rise of Iron, which I thought was a pretty decent expansion, and the Age of Triumph, which to me is still like one of the peak times of Destiny when everything was viable, all the content was playable, everybody could reach the max level and just enjoy the game and have a good time, and things were really good back then. And then, for whatever reason, they decided they needed to make Destiny 2. And that was, again, another mixed reception. It launched and it was okay when it first came out, but then the first couple of DLCs were a little weak, even if I did kind of enjoy Warbind and having to go around and find all the collectibles to get some of the weapons. Polaris Lance is still one of my favorite weapons in this game. I use it quite a bit, and I still remember having to go on the quest to get it all the way back when. It was kind of a long slog to get it, but it's been worth it. I still use the same one that I originally got back during that time. But Destiny 2 again has kind of had an interesting history where it kind of suffered the same as the first Destiny, where kind of lackluster updates by Bungie. And we had the Forsaken expansion, which kind of did what the Taken King did. It kind of revived the game, brought it back. But then Bungie has kind of fallen into this lull the last couple of years. They've had layoffs. There's been all kinds of problems. And some of the expansions haven't been so good. So going into the Final Shape, I think they said the pre-orders were a lot lower than they were for Lightfall, which Lightfall was pretty much an abject disaster for Destiny 2. When it came out, it promised all this hype and all these answers about things going on in the franchise, and we really didn't get anything from that expansion, especially in the wake of, the Witch Queen, which was really, really good. Lightfall just kind of fell flat. The player base actually dropped quite a bit. It was at one of its lowest points. The PvP community was really upset because nothing was being done in Crucible. There's a lot of cheaters in the game. There hadn't been new maps in a long time, and PvP is, I've felt PvP is kind of a joke in this game anyways, but I know there's people that do really enjoy Crucible and competitive Crucible, and unfortunately for them, they just never really had anything come into the game that was really good. So Destiny 2 was kind of on life support for a while. Even a lot of the content creators and the Twitch streamers were sort of giving up on the game. They were going to variety streaming and other things, so it was kind of a low point. A lot of us kind of took a step away from the game, and myself personally, while I know life, the original Destiny, I had well over, I think, 1,700 hours in that game. I've taken very long breaks from Destiny 2 depending on the quality of the expansions. In fact, there was one point in time, I think I didn't play this game for almost 2 years, and I actually returned in 2020 during the pandemic, was when I had a lot more free time, being stuck in the house, and it's like, maybe we'll give Destiny 2 a shot again. And I kind of got interested in the game, but played it very sparingly, only a couple hours a week. I'd go through the expansions, do some of the seasonal stuff, and then I'd take a break for 3 or 4 months. I never really played a ton of it. And then recently, with Into the Light, the new update, I was kind of in one of those lulls where I hadn't been playing the game very much. Well, I came back to try out Into the Light, which had the Onslaught activity where you could farm some of the new weapons. There was the Pantheon raid activity. A lot of fun stuff they put back in the game, and they actually made the game pretty enjoyable to play again. So I came back, and this past season, I actually think I reached the highest level ever in the season pass. It was like well into the 400s, so I've definitely been getting back into the game again, and Bungie has seemed to have found their stride again with this game. But a lot of us were still thinking, man, the Final Shape's going to come out. What if it's just an absolute dud? Didn't want to get too excited for it, so expectations were pretty low. Well, I can safely say, guys, that if you are someone who's been on the fence about coming back to this game, I think it's definitely worth it to come back and play the Final Shape. This is one of the best expansions they've done. The campaign is a mixed bag for me. I'm going to talk about why there are things about the campaign I thought were kind of weak, but that has more to do with the gameplay than anything else. One of my big issues with Destiny is I'm a big sci-fi fan. I love these universes that we go into, and with Destiny, it's like we've got all these questions about everything in the universe. Who's the Traveler? Where'd it come from? Who made it? Who is the Darkness? What's the Witness? All this other stuff. Well, we finally got some answers to some of that in this campaign, but we still don't really know anything about the Traveler, like where it came from or what its true purpose is or anything like that. And that's one of the things that's bothered me a little bit with Destiny, is like there's just never really any concrete answers about some things. But this was a campaign that finally did deliver on quite a bit of lore and narrative in terms of answering some questions about the past, specifically about the Darkness and the Witness, who became the main avatar for the Darkness kind of that we've been fighting for the past couple of years, and the Black Fleet with the pyramid ships and everything. So we did get a little bit of that, which was kind of cool. I'll talk about that a little bit more. There are going to be some spoilers, so you may want to avoid this video until you've been able to play through the campaign if that's something you want to do. Plus, we're going to be showing footage of some of the end of the Final Shape after the raid and everything, so you'll be getting some spoilers through there as well if you're watching. But, that's one thing. Like, if you go to the Halo series, they did a great job of fleshing out that entire universe, all the background from it, talking about the precursors and the flood and everything. There's even books and things. It's something I wish Bungie would do with Destiny, is have these companion novels out there where you could read and learn more about the universe. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So anyways, Final Shape is out. The campaign, like I said, very, very good. The narrative is excellent. There's some great moments with the whole entire cast of the Vanguard. It's basically Zavala, Ikora. We all know Cade came back. Anytime they need to save Destiny 2, they just bring Cade back or do something with Cade. And Nathan Fillion does a great job here returning to the role. He's one of my favorite voice actors, obviously Buck from Halo ODST and Halo 5, and he's just really funny. Brings a great charisma to Cade 6, and it's kind of fun that Cade 6 comes back. He's one of our main guides through this new campaign. There is a big emphasis on Crow, so if you're not really a fan of Crow, Prince Aldrin, which I'm not, that can be a little bit of a turnoff, and I'm a little shocked that they went with him for a character that it seems like they're going to focus on into the future. So that's a little bit interesting there. But it's an excellent narrative campaign. You get to learn a lot about the past. There's some very good emotional moments, and it's kind of a reflection of the 10 years the game has been out. Bungie does manage to hit some pretty emotional highs with this expansion. Where I didn't enjoy the campaign necessarily is the gameplay is kind of weak. It's very linear, and they said it was going to be, so I can't really fault them on that, but it's basically you walk a lot from point A to point B. You hear narrative and stuff going on in the background. They're telling, there's NPCs that are talking. You get to a small combat section, you have a little battle. They did throw some raid light mechanics into these levels, which kind of just pads out the time it takes you to get them done. Nothing's really all that difficult, even in the legendary campaign. And so you follow this exact same formula in every single campaign mission. It's like you walk a whole lot, you finally get to a small area, you do a little bit of fighting, you get done with the fighting, you listen to some dialogue, and then you walk a whole lot. And then you rinse and repeat. You finally reach like a small cavern or cave at the end. Every single final boss fight of each campaign mission is like in this little claustrophobic arena you have to kind of run around in. And be careful not to blow yourself up if you're using grenade launchers or rockets. But they do the same thing over and over and over again. And it's kind of interesting because during the server downtime preparing for Final Shape, I actually went and played Halo Reach again, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And it's incredible to me that in Halo Reach, which is a Bungie game, even you get into the second campaign mission after the introduction and tutorial, and it's like you've got an option of which objective you want to go to first. You can drive a vehicle, you can be the gunner in a vehicle, you've got all kinds of different variations in what you can do within the mission. And it's just weird to me with Destiny they've never been able to bring those dynamics into the campaigns. Like, I guess even in Witch Queen was not too bad. You had a lot of things in the environment you could interact with. But in this case here with Final Shape, it's a pretty boring and piecemeal campaign. It's like basically bare bones. You're just, like I said, going somewhere, walking a bunch, small fight, walking some more. small fight, walk a lot more, open a chest, fight the last boss, and that's pretty much every campaign mission. There's one really awful one where you're going through the old Cosmodrome and you have to climb an ice level, and you're just walking endlessly. You don't even really fight that much. You kill like 10 Vex in the whole thing, and you just keep walking, and stuff like that really kind of irritates me, where it's like, at this point in time, it's 2024, and we still can't have some kind of dynamic mission design in these campaigns from Bungie. So because of that, I give the campaign like a 7 or 8 out of 10, just because of the weak gameplay mechanics. But in terms of the cutscenes are fantastic. They're the best Bungie's ever done. The narrative is really solid. We do get a lot of answers about some things going on with the Witness and the Darkness. So I think it's definitely worth playing through, especially if you've been coming through this franchise for a while. And I used to be one of Bungie's biggest critics, so if I'm telling you that it's pretty good, it's probably really good. I know a lot of the content creators and streamers are going crazy right now saying it's the best thing ever, but a lot of that's because Lightfall was such a big letdown. Many of them are kind of on a high right now. So I'm not really quite sure if I do the 10 out of 10 thing a lot of them are saying. But really where the game does get really good is after the campaign is over with. You open up the Pale Heart, which is like inside the Traveler. It's a new patrol zone, basically, where you get to go do a bunch of missions and things. And there's a lot of extra content to do. It reminds me a lot of the Dreadnought with Taken King, where you could just spend countless hours exploring. There's all kinds of secrets. There's collectibles to find. There's a couple of lost sectors. There's basically a public event going on at all times in the different zones, where you just go around and you kill all the enemies and do mini bosses and do objectives, and you can get chests and engrams, and it just throws loot at you now. There's tons of loot. The power level now starts at 1900, goes up to I believe 2000 or maybe a little bit higher. At this point, I think I'm like 1975 right now, so I'm still working my way through that. And they did redesign the game a little bit, having to start over with the power grind. You are not going to be as strong as you were toward the end of Into the Light now, because they reset the strike playlist. You have to be 1945 to go into those. You got to be 1995, I think, to get into the Nightfalls. So you're going to feel a little weak at first, very similar to Neomuna and Lightfall, when it was, a lot of people didn't like the difficulty of the patrol zone. But the Pale Heart is a great zone that's added in. I just wish it was social. It's not. You're only in there by yourself, so when you're doing a lot of these events, there's not very much enemy density. You do walk around quite a bit. But if you're looking for secrets and you want to go explore something, it's great. There's a lot of additional quests after the initial campaign completion, where you can get some exotics that are pretty cool. So it's just it's a really good place for the game to be in right now. And then after you manage to do a couple of extra quests after you finish the main campaign, you do fight the Witness in the campaign. It's actually probably the best campaign level that they put in. The boss fight is actually really, really good. It's got some interesting mechanics, and obviously the Witness is too big of a big bad to be able to beat in a campaign mission, so what you wind up doing is you just kind of weaken him, and then they left that to the raid for people to finish him off. And a lot of people are saying this is probably one of the best raids that Bungie has designed. I did watch it all the weekend, mostly Aztec Cross, but it took a lot of people over 20 hours to beat this raid. I think World's First was between 18 and 19 hours. It was just as long, if not longer, than The Last Wish, which a lot of people said was the best raid that Destiny's done. But it was a really good raid that they put together. Very difficult, very punishing mechanics on like 48-hour contest mode. It was really kind of cool to watch people get it done. It was pretty epic and just made this expansion a lot better. And then once the raid finished, actually some of the footage you've probably been seeing in the background, they launched this 12-person mission called Incision, where they let the community go in after the raid, and basically the campaign boss fight weakened the Witness. The raid made the Witness more vulnerable, and then in this last mission, you go in and you actually get to finally defeat the Witness. And it's pretty cool, because it's like a culmination, as I said, of the last 10 years as we've gone through and played the game, all the allies we've recruited in the game now. Obviously, we've got some of the Cabal on our side. Even the Hive, Savathun shows up. Keitel, Nimbus from Lightfall, like Shax is there, like Saint 14 comes in. Everybody is on the field fighting with you as NPCs, and it's pretty sweet. It's just a big horde mode. You have to go in and capture some zones and kill a bunch of people. It's like you have unlimited revives, so you can't really lose. And then you get to go in and kind of have a little bit of a mini raid experience where you do get to fight the Witness, kind of like the teams did in the raid. It's pretty cool. It's got some of the same mechanics, but it's pretty fun, pretty exciting, and that's where everything culminates, and you defeat the Witness and basically end the Light and Dark saga. And then Bungie gives you quite a long cutscene afterward that hits on some pretty high emotional chords if you've actually been invested in this game for a long time. There's a lot of character moments. It's really, really well done. It's one of the, I gotta be honest, it's one of the best endings, I think, to a game that I've played in a very long time. And it was pretty cool to see. This entire weekend I've had this feeling of, man, Destiny is actually back. That kind of that magical sci-fi feeling we wanted from this game has finally been delivered on. We got some good concrete answers to some things going on, and then they've kind of opened up for what's going to happen with the rest of the season with the future content. We already have it established that we're going to be fighting the Vex in some form here toward the end, and some of the stuff Bungie's teased at, it looks like the Vex have got a new like humanoid type leader. I think it's going to play into some stuff with Maya Sundaresh that we learned in Lightfall, and since it's on Nessus, we had that M-Sun 12 kind of Easter egg in one of the strikes on Nessus for a while now. But Failsafe's going to be the new vendor, which is kind of cool. I like Failsafe. She was one of the cool characters they introduced in the new Destiny 2 when it first came out. But we've got a little bit of an idea where we're going and next. But the send-off they give you in this game, a lot of people have said this, and I kind of agree with it. It's like, it's hard to tell if Bungie was saying goodbye. This felt a little bit like a love letter to the community and to the people who've been playing this game since day one, because like I said, it does hit on some emotions. And if you've been invested in Destiny at any point in its life cycle, you probably were playing the game. It's probably one of your favorite games. You probably played it with a lot of your friends. It's kind of how I started off with. I played the game with a lot of friends when it first came out, and unfortunately now none of them play anymore, and they haven't for a very long time. So I've been a solo player for a very long time in this game, unfortunately, especially being a little bit older. I don't have the free time to take part in a lot of the raiding activities, but I'm still able to do quite a bit in the game, and the game is quite enjoyable. But yeah, this final shape really just felt like Bungie's kind of swan song. But I think next week where they're going to tell us that there's more things coming, and they're going to talk about the future of the game, I think. But it's kind of hard to tell. It's like, was this a goodbye, or is this kind of an indication of where the future is going with this game? And the Destiny community right now, and the Destiny game itself, is probably at an all-time high. We're back at a point where we were back in Age of Triumph and Destiny 1, where everything just felt really, really good. And there's a lot of positive things coming out with the game after it kind of struggled for a while. And the question is, can Bungie capitalize on this? Can they move forward and continue to improve upon Destiny 2? Because Sony's lurking there in the background, and I think a lot of the reasons that this campaign was so well done was probably Sony was sitting there saying, you guys really have got to knock this out of the park, because it's been rumored and there's been things that have come out in the news where it's like Sony is basically threatening to take over Bungie, like just absorb it into Sony, and they would be then in charge of all the stuff, because Bungie has kind of gone off in their own direction here the last couple of years, and things have not been great, and they've underperformed, and obviously they had all the layoffs and a lot of other things. The community was not happy with the game for quite some time, so they were under a lot of pressure, I'm sure, to get this expansion out. They delayed it for 6 months, and then unfortunately on the first day we did have terrible server issues. I couldn't even get in on the first day. I didn't get to really play Final Shape, even start it, until like the second day. And then of course for some reason they made the world's first raid race 3 days after the game had come out, so there was a big rush for everybody to go in and really get everything finished before that. You had to finish the campaign and some other missions before you could play the raid. And I'm kind of thankful that I didn't take part in the raid, because while I was watching everybody stream it, I was playing through the campaign and doing some of the activities, and I got to have a much longer chance to play through. And I played through on my Titan, since that's been my original character since day one. And it was kind of nice to just take my time, go through everything, look around, explore, and just have a good time experiencing what the game had to offer, because everybody else was so busy rushing through. That's why I think a lot of the content creators have been talking about how great the campaign gameplay is, which I disagree. Like I said, I don't think it's very mechanically engaging. It's pretty boring. There's a lot of things going on there, but I think everything else that's been good about the narrative and the lore and the cutscenes and everything, that on its own is probably worth it, just to go in and experience everything going on with the characters. It was really, really solid, really well done. And the last boss fight of the campaign with the Witness is probably one of the best boss fights they've done throughout the game. they did it justice, where you felt like you were fighting a fairly powerful enemy, but still knowing you were not going to win because it would have to be done in the raid. I think they did a good job balancing that with this game. But anyways, guys, that's kind of my opinion and sort of a look into the final shape and what I've felt they managed to accomplish with it. So I think, as I said at the beginning, if you're a longtime fan of the game, if you haven't played in a couple years, or even maybe the 6 months you took a break after Lightfall, which I wouldn't blame you, because I've done that before. An expansion would come out like Shadowkeep, and it would be kind of a not very good expansion. You know, a lot of us have just taken a break from the game for a while, but I think it might be worth coming back to give Final Shape a shot. And I just really hope Bungie can keep this momentum. I hope we get some cool news this week about what's coming up with the game. And it would be great to be able to get back into this franchise pretty hardcore. Like, I've been playing a ton lately, and it's been very enjoyable to get back into it. You know, just playing on the PC now instead of the console like I used to on Xbox. But it's been very, very enjoyable getting back into Destiny 2, and I feel like they did a great job with this final expansion in the Light and Dark saga. Now we're going to get the episodes. They haven't really announced any major content coming up outside of those, so we're going to wait and see what they have in store for us. Anyways, guys, if you have any questions about anything about the Final Shape, feel free to leave it down below in the comments. I'll do my best to get you an answer as soon as I can. As always, I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you again next time.